What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 10 of 45 Minutes of Noise. I am your host, slash your boy, Chris Pugh, and I am joined by my very good friend and Mr. Cynical himself, Samuel Lewis. Mate, after a tremendous evening that we had last night that we're about to discuss, how are we?
We are very well, thank you very much. We are very well. What a night, man. Oh
Mate,
my
great,
gosh.
great moment of growth for us. Back of the gig, right? Right. We're standing at the back of the gig, comfortable distance to the bar, and back home by half past midnight. A tremendous moment of growth for me and you. 6 years ago, we'd still be out now. We'd just be getting in.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Excuse me. I had a terrific time, and it was nice. It's nice to experience gigs in your 30s. I actually spoke to a couple of people who were like, "Yeah, I went into the pit for Bullet," and I'm like, "I hope you had fun." I think I'd have pulled a muscle on my approach to the mosh pit, to be honest. So I'm way at the back here. I don't want to get punched on a Friday night. And I had just a tremendous time. Like what was really, really heartwarming was just seeing, I was looking around and aside from the typical amount of folks that I was noticing sort of in their 20s and like, sort of tattoos and long hair and things like that and sort of, kids really, there was a lot of people that I knew have normal jobs now, but
Yeah, yeah,
came out of the woodwork for this. There's a lot of normal looking haircuts, a lot of
yeah,
people in
yeah.
like just like shirts and normal jeans. Usually, sometimes I go to a metal gig and I'm like, what do you do Monday to Friday? Like, where
Mm,
do you live? Like, there's people, there's people at certain gigs that are like they've just come out of like a cave or something. But there's a lot of people that are like, oh, you're a teacher, you're an accountant.
yeah.
But Bullet for Valentine were your favorite band when you were 14, and this is like a proper throwback. And I really, really enjoyed that. It felt like a really special night about what is now becoming, which is weird to say, a part of metal history, isn't it? That period of time,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
mid 2000s metalcore run, he's now becoming like the way that if you were talking about thrash metal in 2004 and 5, like it's that kind of distance now.
Yeah.
Which is interesting to think of. But yeah, it was just a tremendous time, and both bands did a wonderful service to their iconic records.
It's fascinating that as you get older, that the things that you just don't care about at all. You mentioned like the mosh pit there, and when I was in, I want to say from like 19, probably younger, when I say from like 17 to like 27. I was like, we have to go into at least one pit. It's like some kind of we haven't been to the gig if we haven't been into a pit. This we when you're younger, the things that you randomly care about, that when you get older, you're like, God, why does that even? Why would you even ever care about that? And like last night, and when we saw Foo Fighters, which is a great example of like the back of the gig is just the greatest, the best place to be, closer to the bar, space around you, more comfortable. Honestly, it's hilarious that I spent 10 years being like, no, we have to be in the center of the action. We have to be where the pits are. Like it matters.
We
It
have
is
to
just
be
hilarious.
we have to be less comfortable with a worse view.
And it's just, it's
It's the
hilarious.
thing.
The things that you care about when you're younger are hilarious, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. But like, it's the throes of youth.
Yeah, that's the
The
point,
throes
mate.
of youth and like you're chasing these experiences. Um and I've had those. I've had those. I've been a pit where my mate broke his nose at a Trivium gig. So I've already done that. Sort of watching him
Yeah.
bleed in a bathroom somewhere. But it was just a wonderful, wonderful experience. And I know we're gonna talk about it as part of the news. But Trivium are like a staple. They're kind of like exactly what you're gonna get kind of thing in terms of a live performance. They've been
Yeah.
one of metal's greats for the last 2 decades now. They're an A-class performers every single time, and they've sort of grown into this veteran band on the metal stage. Bullet, we have a different relationship because obviously they're shot out like a cannon with the poison, and then kind of continue that momentum a fair bit with Scream and Fire, but then obviously sort of faded away. And last night was a reminder, I thought, that when they were very good, they were very, very good. The
Mhm.
clarity of the sound, the power of the performance, how great those songs still hold up, how well their performances hold up. Um, like if they had written two records like The Poison, they could just dine on that at like NIA style shows, really, for the rest of their careers.
We are accidentally slipping into the news here, so I'll just give you guys the heads up on what we're going to cover today. Coming up on today's show, we've got reviews on Trivium and Bullet for My Valentine's Poison Descendancy Tour, and we've got album reviews on Bleeding Through and Lacuna Coil. Before we get into the show, we should tell you how you can support us, and the best way to do that is by liking slash subscribing on YouTube or whichever podcast service you use to listen slash watch us. You can follow us on X at Noise Podcast, as well as following the Noise platform in general at Noise UK on X, Instagram, Facebook, and Blue Sky. You should head to noise.co.uk for all your latest news, album reviews, features, and interviews. And before we begin, a big thank you, as always, to friends of the show, Liquid Death, for being our favourite thirst murderers. Superb. Right, okay. Let us get moving on to what's going to close out the show.
Cool.
Bleeding Through 9 is also out on 14th of February via Sharptone Records. It's the band's ninth album and the follow-up to 2018's Love Will Kill All. Bleeding Through, classic metalcore band. And annoyingly, I need to do this really, and I need to jump into Bleeding Through's back catalogue because they are just like one of the classic, like metal like, explosion of metalcore bands. And it is kind of absurd actually for someone who likes metalcore as much as me that I haven't actually really delved. But this sounds really strange thing to say. There's an artwork of one of Bleeding Through's albums. This is Love, this is Murderous, and you would think, oh, I'm going to talk about this artwork here and how impactful it was on me, but for some reason I've never heard the album. Um, there's like this kind of rotting heart with a knife going through it. And I remember when I was first like getting into metalcore, I was like looking at what the best metalcore albums written was, and I'd see that like maybe like 18th or 19th on the list. I think, God, that is some of the most striking artwork I've ever seen on an album, and that's how I knew them, just basically through this artwork, and I knew they went on a hiatus. So once they went on hiatus, I thought, oh, I'm not going to go back and listen now, and then for whatever reason, I just haven't taken the time to really like delve into Bleeding Through. But that artwork on This Is Love, This Is Murderous, that like rotten heart with the knife going through it, has always been really impactful for me. Can I ask, were you into Bleeding Through? Because obviously you were into alternative music way before me. So were Bleeding Through a band that you got on board with during your
Yeah,
Bullet for My Valentine?
the early stuff. Love Lost in a Hail of Gunfire was like a Planet staple when I was like 14.
Nice.
Um, so that they were always just like one of those sort of second tier bands underneath that sort of like Kill Switch and Bullet and things like that. But they had a couple of hits and there was people that were like really really into them. So yeah, yeah, early doors definitely.
Nice. Um, in terms of nine, this is I had quite a strange experience reviewing this record, Sam,
Okay.
because there are moments, right, where this album is amazing. It does some really
Yeah.
amazing things at times. But then, do you ever did you ever feel like when you were listening to this, there'd be a moment where you're like, God, this goes hard and it's class. But then something that would just happen that would just kind of break the inertia. There would
Yeah.
either be some kind of there'd be a chorus that didn't really seem to fit, and I'm like,
Yeah.
this is a strange uh, kind of left turn that you've taken here. Or there'd be some kind of really strange lyric that would be kind of shoehorned in. And the moment I remember thinking that the most, I think the second track, Our Brand is Chaos. Like the song actually goes hard. Like the
Mm.
instrumentation is hard as nails. But then there's this lyric that they use. It's like F with us and find out, and they shout it as a motif throughout the song. And I'm like, lads,
Wish you
what?
die.
I was like, come on, man. Like, that's something I'd expect from Falling in Reverse or Attila, that is. F with us
Yeah.
and find out. Come on. Because the song is there's a drum roll into these pig squeals as well. Like it's metalcore perfection instrumentally. But then like lyrically, it's like, oh, why are you doing this? Like no, this can't have been a decision that you've made. They've sent this has been a track that's accidentally been put on from another album or something like that. And then there's also moments where I think I noticed one on Hail Destruction as well. Like, because the opening gives you this really like feeling of like optimism. That you've got this like old school Devil Driver type riff that I noticed. But then they've got like they'll build and then the chorus doesn't seem to fit. Did you notice this or is it just me?
Yeah. No, no, no. I would prefer they wrote this album without any choruses at all.
Yeah.
Like none of them needs to be there. Like Gallows on the opening with the Saruman quote, which just made me laugh out loud.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, it's good,
Um,
isn't it?
yeah, and reminisce like reminiscent to that like Firefight from a Gunfire, and it was like a nice chuggy and heavy following him from the sort of thrashy stuff. The chorus, I was like, I don't need this.
Yeah. It,
Just I
but
don't
can
need
I
it.
ask, right? Because you've listened to them more than me. Is that because those choruses, they've got like a gothic metal trope, haven't they? Those
Yeah,
choruses.
yeah.
Has that always been there?
Not always, but they flirted with it throughout their career.
Right, okay. It happens a lot on this record. I was listening to this record and I was like, oh, right, okay. So this is just what they use these gothic metal tropes in the choruses. So is that something you recognize from
Yeah,
previous
like it's
like
been gothic
delvings?
throughout their career. Yeah, but like it's not something I'll be like, oh, they do this all the time. I'll be
Yeah,
I've dipped in and out with Bleeding Through like early stuff that were just like a metalcore band, and they've sort of diversified a little bit over the course as they're going on. But yeah, like it just felt like oh we should have a chorus here, so let's put one in. But the melodic bits were not that great. This band is at its best when it's trying to punch you in the face, repeatedly and often.
yeah. When
Um,
Brandon's screaming at me, it's peak. Like
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
he's a phenomenal lead vocalist. He is Brandon.
Like Dead and So Alive is a great example of this. The opening, heavy, great. I actually wrote my notes. Nice work, lads. This is like such good stuff. Blast beats into a chorus that shows versatility, but I'm actually unsure about the melodies themselves. But the riffs are so hard and the solo is sick.
Yeah,
It feels just like the chorus was just there to distract our attention away to the riff again. Do you know what I mean? Like I'll just do this to
yeah,
come
yeah.
back. But like it didn't really feel like it was like a real um fluid part of the song. Like I quite like there was elements of sort of like black metal stuff in here at times. Because my favorite version of black metal is when it's elements in a genre that I much prefer. Rather than sort of on its own. And like it's to Hail Destruction. The staccato stabs into the breakdown is just so good. Really dark, really nice. Rotates nicely at the end to a lovely solo. I love the little dive bombs at the conclusion, very Slayer and Pantera, and the piano at the end. I'm like, great, metal tropes, wonderful. And there's some solo wizardry at the end of like Lost in Isolation. The last breath transition is beautiful. And then you get to like sort of Path of the Disease, right? And the riff's great, and the drum fit's cool. But then the verse style was like lost momentum a little bit,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, just chugging mid-tempo stuff. Like, well, who's this for? Um, I don't think it needed Comeback Kid on Iron Resistance. I'm not
It
sure it
did
needed.
not.
I'm not sure it needed the chorus there. I don't think that added a great deal. And I wasn't big on this black metal spoken word bit in Emery that was kind of like didn't it's hard to describe. It wasn't really singing or screaming. It was kind of like a weird midpoint. I was like, what's
Right.
what's this?
s-
There was some
I'm
odd
sorry to
decisions here.
interrupt. I'm sorry to interrupt. I apologize, but
No, no, don't worry.
I'm really glad you mentioned Emery because apart from our Brandy's Chaos, which has got that really cringy motif of F with us and find out, um, Emery. That's the probably second greatest example of what I mean by this album being amazing at times and like kind of strange to listen to at others. Because the first half of Emery is like really lackluster and kind of plods along and nothing's really happening. And then out of nowhere, like around the halfway mark, it just explodes into this huge
Yeah,
blasting metal classic. And then it's got this really harsh breakdown and dual layered vocals and a really hefty rhythm section. And I was like, this song is incredible now. It spent the first half literally doing nothing. I was like, what's happening?
yeah. I completely agree. Like that it just feels like they're like a great metal act that's trying to be something else sometimes, and they're really not good at the something else. They're a terrific metal band though. Like these guys are so talented.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah, they're an amazing band. Um,
And if they just tried not to verge on other stuff that clearly sounds um not like not within their wheelhouse is the nice way of what I'm trying to say. It's not in their sort of canon, I guess, not in their toolbox. Focus on what they're really, really great at. They could just be a pummeling, angry, technically fantastic metal band
yeah.
and just focus on sort of breakdowns rather than shoehorned choruses and some odd writing choices. Um, like because there's some of the stuff on here is just like genuinely transcendental. It's like really, really excellent. But I agree with you. There's not a chorus on here that I like. There
Now,
just isn't.
Martyr Demo. is the keyboard, just the keyboard for and synths. So I'm going to assume it's her. I don't actually know because I don't know the. I don't. Yeah, I'm not going to pretend I know the history and the make of the band particularly well. I damned. I'm going to assume it's Marta that does these choruses. And do you know what? She can sing. She's got a
Oh
really nice
yeah, it's
voice.
not an
It
ability
just doesn't.
issue.
But she's got really. If it is her, I'm assuming it's her. She's got a great level of quality to her voice. It just doesn't. I don't think it. I just think it fits. It just doesn't work.
No, no,
Um.
it feels like two songs simultaneously sort of bumping into each other. Sometimes it still is a little haphazard. There's no
Yeah.
look. There's some moments of this where there's no connective tissue. Like we talk about the review that we did a couple of weeks ago. We talked about Harakiri for the Sky, and I remember talking about um how satisfying the song structure was because you could hear the layers, how it flowed from one thing to another, where everything made sense and sort of was concluding this really sort of satisfying way. I don't feel like that necessarily with this. It feels like it's all constituent parts that are just being jammed together. Here's a breakdown, here's a riff, here's a bit of a chorus, here's a guitar solo, and then it's just sort of like pushed together like a piece of clay, where it's not been sort of worked into the fluidity of the song a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like these are all the things we can do, but they don't necessarily go together. And that's the concern for me a little bit. I think this is a really good record, and I think I don't want to inspire the ire of Bleeding Through fans who are
Oh
going to be
yeah.
like, oh, actually, here's 15 great choruses that I've written throughout the career. You don't know what you're talking about. That's fine.
Yeah. There's a chance we
This
don't
is we're
actually.
just talk. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But this is the record we're talking about, and this is
Yeah.
the feelings that we have. If you disagree, great. If you listen to this and like the choruses as well, then no, this is probably going to be album of the year if you're a metal fan.
Yeah.
And I'm rooting for you to enjoy them more than I did. But I'm just saying that I didn't gravitate to me necessarily.
I'm gonna go back and listen to more Bleeding Through because at the very least, the riff work and Brandon's like kind of caustic vocals very much have got my interest here. I'm definitely gonna go back, and I want to be clear: this is actually a very good at times, great record. I just feel like there are moments where it kind of breaks the inertia, and
Hmm.
I'm not entirely sure why it happens. But I'm definitely going to go back and listen to some classic Bleeding Through stuff. But again, just to kind of the big headlines, really, just by everything we've said, very good at times, great record. Some unusual, strange writing choices.
Yeah, completely agreed. Completely agreed. It's a really great album that has a chance to be excellent, and this is a really talented band, and that is on display. And if you're like me and you tune into records for riff work and instrumentation, then you're gonna have like an 8 out of 10 time with most of this. But there are parts of this where you'll look at your phone and you'll sort of like, oh, I'll just doze out on this bit and I'll kick back in for the riff kind of thing, and that's okay because not every metal band is equipped with writing pop songs and big
Yeah.
massive choruses. Otherwise, they'll all be working in different industries. Like they're excellent musicians who sometimes try and cosplay as pop artists, and that's where you get that really awkward trade-off. And this is just one of those times. Amazing riff work, brilliant like solo and instrumentation stuff. Really A plus metal work across the band, but like sort of like C minus melodic work. That's just how it is for me.
That is where we're going to leave off this episode of 45 Minutes of Noise. I want to thank you very much if you are still listening. We are going to be back in 2 weeks' time where, if things go to plan, we're going to be reviewing the new Killswitch Engage album. And I'm excited about it.
Are you
I,
comfortable? Are you comfortable revealing that? Is that how comfortable we are
I'm
saying that
excited,
that's
man.
a possibility?
I'm excited.
Oh my God.
I'm excited, man. I think there's a really good chance here that we were like Killswitch have done the thing with they've done the best album since 2006. I think there's a real possibility, man. So I'm excited about it. So yeah,
Oh,
with any luck, got to send a few emails, got to kind of kiss a few backsides and hope. But with any luck, we're reviewing the new Killswitch Engage album in 2 weeks' time, and we should also be doing a new EP from God Complex. I believe. I think they've got something new coming out in two
cool,
weeks.
cool.
Up until that time, thank you for listening. Please support us by liking slash subscribing, depending on whichever service you use, and feel free to follow the podcast on X at Noise Podcast and Noise UK on X, Instagram, Facebook, and Blue Sky. It's been a pleasure to be with you. We will see you in 2 weeks' time. With any luck, with me lording over new Killswitch Engage, it'll be a great time to be alive. Thanks for listening. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Keep it heavy. Bye.